Enshittification, a term that seeks to answer the question, why is it that everything on the internet seems to be getting worse and worse? I've been having the same conversation over and over again, especially as I travel, and it surprises me how few people have heard the term enshittification. Hopefully, the word shit in the middle doesn't offend you too much, but that's kind of the point, because it does feel like everything around us is going to shit. And the internet could be a part of that, could be at the center of it, and the reason behind it might just be the answer why so many things around us seem to be getting worse. The term was originated by Cory Doctorow, somebody whose work you should absolutely check out if you have not heard of before, and I will link below to a talk that he gave that is phenomenal. But the short of it is this: there are 3 stages to enshittification, and generally we're kind of experiencing stage 3 across the board. Stage 1 looks basically like this: make the best, cheapest, fastest, coolest product you can imagine and get everybody on it, and then lock them in. Facebook and Amazon serve as really good examples of both of these that you'll see Cory use all the time. But Facebook basically is like, we're gonna provide the easiest way to connect. We're gonna give you little bots that'll go out and help people move over from MySpace. We're gonna create the nicest features, the easiest integration, everything you could want. Farmville, we're gonna make it really easy to have a really good time, and everybody ends up on it. Amazon does the same thing with convenience, speed, cheap, good. Like the customer service you get, you have a small problem with the product, they just send you a new one, give you a full refund. You remember those days where on Amazon, if you had any small problem, they would make it right immediately? That is stage 1. They get you addicted to their product. You can't go anywhere else. They undercut the competition like crazy, and often do so by burning a whole bunch of cash so that they're operating at a loss and you win big. That's stage 1. And it's easy to see how you can get locked into it. Stage 2 then brings in businesses, their clientele. They're like, we have all the customers you could possibly want. They're right here. You can come get them. And we're gonna make it so easy and cost effective and profitable to do business with us that you will not want to go anywhere else. Facebook does this for advertisers, making it so easy to target exactly the user you want in a way that has never been done before. Google did that too, obviously, and dominated the ad space. And then Amazon is like, you can sell your goods to this massive market of people and we will ship it to people really quickly for you. We will fulfill those orders. They built an entire marketplace and it became so cheap and so profitable to do business there that they locked you in. And then they started into stage 3. Stage 3 is basically, screw everybody, it's time to make our money. Ratcheting up the prices, Amazon starts competing directly with the people that have come onto their platform. They force you to pay to advertise to be seen by the people who used to. Facebook did that too. But then they also start copying your products, duplicating them and selling them for cheaper, undercutting your business, maybe buying you outright. And if you don't buy out from them, then they'll just spend all the money they need to put you out of business. Facebook basically just ruins democracy. You get the idea. Like, everything just gets worse because it's more profitable to do so. The thing that blew my mind that I didn't know about until the talk that I'm linking to below from Cory Doctorow is that Google intentionally made their search worse to make more money. They owned 90% of the market. They couldn't grow anymore. And they're like, we need to make more money. And some guy at McKinsey was like, well, why don't you make it so that the first search result isn't always the best search result? So they have to modify their search to find what they're really looking for. And in that process, you get to advertise to them twice. This is not the deal that we signed up for when it came to the internet, at least as far as I remember. Clearly need a coffee. I'm gonna get a coffee now. And thanks, of course, to Cece, today's Patron Producer, and all my patrons for making it possible to come out here and for doing the exact opposite of enshittifying my life. In fact, they make my life so much better by being here and supporting my work. So let's talk about some ways in which we can resist this and make life better. I mean, livable at least. But hopefully, I think we can win this. The first thing that we can do is what I'm trying to do right now, which is just talk about it. Like, the more that we're aware of it, the more that we're talking about it, the more we have words to describe what it is that's frustrating us and making things feel and worse, I think is important. And for 2, the reason I'm talking about it is because this is just a part of my daily life. It's a part of all of our lives, but it affects how I make a living, how I communicate, and then doing whatever we can to say no to these increasingly bad experiences is one part B. Saying no in particular can be the more daunting task. There are easy ways like rejecting the use of cookies and simply not using apps and sites and services that feel like they're taking advantage of you and doing everything they can to ruin your life. But of course, it's easier said than done because we need a lot of these technologies, and a lot of them are basically infrastructure at this point. So pushing back in small ways, especially with like the AI, the generative stuff right now. We can talk more about that later. I did make a video about how they stole my books to train at least Meta's language model. We can talk about that more in the future. Doing what we can, ultimately. But then there's a positive, I think, and more creative way of reclaiming a little bit of agency here. Taking back some level of ownership. I don't think we just have to say no. I think there's some really creative ways that we can say yes that are going to require us to make some conscious decisions. They're going to be different for everybody. I don't think there's an easy cut and dry black and white way of approaching this. I do think saying no as much as we can, as much pushback is there for systems and for products that make our lives worse, or that corporations take hostage and then force us to pay subscription services to get back into whatever it is that's going on. Pushing back against that will matter because at some point it will affect their bottom line. And usage statistics do matter to a lot of these people, so that is important. But being able and willing to decide for ourselves what conveniences we're willing to cut out of our lives, and then take the time to learn how to rebuild some of these things under our own ownership. A lot of that will be prohibitive for those of us that are less tech savvy. I'm not quite as tech savvy as many of you probably think I am. I keep trying, I keep learning, but that's kind of it, right? Just find the things that interest you and those areas where like, I would rather take full ownership of my writing. Where I'm married to YouTube at this point for so many reasons, and I do love YouTube for so many reasons, even as it does get a little bit worse as time goes on. I can take back ownership of my writing and get that off the cloud, get it away from those itchy, steely, thievy fingers of the AI agents that are out there and own it myself. It is risky to do that, to get it off the cloud. I do have to then practice good data backup techniques, and there's a lot to learn, but that's okay. It's also an adventure. That sense of ownership and satisfaction is very, very hard to replicate just by sitting by and passively scrolling on my phone. At least that's what I found. The second, and if you've been following me for a while, probably least surprising would be to spend more time with people that you know and you love in the real world, getting off of our distraction boxes long enough to be actual social creatures, getting away from the social media to be social with other humans. It sounds maybe a little woo-woo and a little crunchy, but the reality is that it is, I think, exactly what we need a lot more of, even if that means that it affects my bottom line as a content creator and you spend less time engaging with what I'm making. If it leads to a happier, healthier life for you, I think that that's a worthy exchange, and I will just have to figure out what to do from there, because I know I'm trying to get off of these things a lot more. And honestly, this year for me, these are two of the main focuses, is trying to reclaim some level of agency over my technological and digital life and to own my future in that way, but also to invest in my future in friendships, in my family, in my friends. Building lasting, meaningful relationships requires FaceTime, requires eating together, requires laughing together, requires some conflict and setting some boundaries. These are all things that I've had to learn a lot about over the last decade in particular, and which I intend to continue to develop in person. And if I'm not honest about that, I'm not sharing that with you, then I feel like I'm doing a disservice. So those are the two ways that I think you can be really positive in navigating this space. It is overwhelming, and there's so much money invested in keeping us down and keeping us addicted, but it doesn't mean that we can't fight against it. Anyways, I've got to go run and grab my dad from the airport here in a minute before we have babysitter duty later. That's going to be fun. I'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning for more thoughts on maybe I've been thinking about sharing a little bit about what's also been unsettling me about my time in America. Among the many things I could talk about, it'll be related to this. I'll talk to you tomorrow.